My name is Scott Bennett. Back in 2023, I had an emergency heart transplant that saved my life and changed my life. Now I'm having conversations about life that get straight to the heart of it. 1171, and I am a little thoughtful on this very hot summer day because I've had the good fortune in the last few weeks of helping my daughter, who I'm very proud of, is going to SMU, graduated UT, and starting a graduate program to go help others. She wants to be a licensed professional counselor. But we are going through the loan process, and I never knew when I invited today's guest that I would want to talk about it with her a little bit, but it sparked something in me, and I think we are going to have a fascinating conversation. So I'm very pleased to have my friend from high school, somebody I admire a lot, president of BFS Advisory Group, Debra Tagg. Hi, Debbie. See, I did
Hi,
it, Debbie.
you did it, and I just wish that you didn't.
Well, I know you're Deborah, but there was a time we had nicknames, and yours
There
was
was
just
a
a shortened
time.
name. It was just a shortened name for
It was
them.
a
But
short name, but Debbie has pigtails.
yeah, and Deborah does not. You've never
Deborah
worn
does not
pigtails.
have pigtails. No, Deborah does not
No
have
pigtails.
pigtails.
But same. It's funny. Same. For those that are going to watch, some are going to listen. But beautiful. I would call auburn red. I mean, we didn't have a lot
Thank
of
you.
red. You stretched our redhead population, ginger, right? So what is it? I mean, right. Do you adopt that? Do you accept that?
Well, okay, here's the thing. I was much more redheaded when I was young. My hair got darker as I got older. Thankfully, I have a wonderful hairstylist that helps it get lighter again. But when you are born a redhead, you are forever a redhead because that redhead is in your DNA. So, yes, I'm a ginger. And even if my hair all fell out, I would be a ginger forever because there is something that goes with being a redhead. It's in your soul.
Well, I knew when I was having you, and I thought, had I had any other gingers on, I did. Previous guest, I think Charlie Calkin is.
Okay.
She also has some of that color. So we might talk about what that does for your personality and your business. But I just thought it was funny when you think about something unique about the guests and each one of them, how they're different. So I am so delighted to be joined by you. We haven't seen each other. We both live in the Dallas area. It's a big place. And I used to
Hmm.
bump into you every once in a while. And I so appreciated you post high school, even in your early career when I would bump into you talking about the things you were doing. So for those that maybe don't know you, Deborah, a little about you, just a minute or so about who you are in the world in your
Sure.
eyes.
So I'm the president of BFS Advisory Group. We're a wealth management firm that's based here in Dallas, and I did found it, but I'm a second generation wealth manager. My dad had started an investment management firm back in the 80s, and I went off and was in the music industry for a few years before I came back to Dallas and joined that. And over the years, then branched off from the family firm and founded my own firm. I have two kids. One of them is about to go off to college. The other one is in college. So I'm about to be an empty nester. So if you hear crying from somewhere in Dallas at the end of August, that's me. So we are very excited and also a little scared about this new phase of life that we have coming up. But a very proud working mom, very involved in the community. I'm on the board of Children's. I'm on the board of Communities Foundation of Texas. That's always been a big part of what I do. And like you said, very connected in the community here. I love Dallas, and I love the community that I've had in so many different phases of my life.
Well, I'm glad you did that because I would have gone another minute and a half. And while we haven't seen each other, I've been paying attention. We bumped
Mhm.
into each other once at something for the United Way. One of the things I so admire about you is just how much you've given of your time. I think it's an incredible model for your kids, first of all, and just it's fun to be proud of your friends. So I'm just at the onset, I'm proud of you. Most people on this podcast, I'm proud of, and I think they're kind of excited if they know about it to be on. But just amazing the things that you've done with all of your gifts and talents. So well done. Uh,
Well, I appreciate that. I have to say, one of the things that I always say about the volunteer work that I've done is that it's really fun to come around the table. And what I mean by that is when you come around a table for a nonprofit, you are giving them your time. You're not looking for money to come back to you. You're doing it because you really sincerely want to. And the people that are around the table sincerely want to do the same thing that you do. So it's almost like a hobby. You meet people that are very
right.
like-minded, and it has just been so meaningful in my life. Aside from the mission work, you have to be drawn to the mission, and I love the missions that I serve. But you also meet just such interesting people when you do it.
Yeah, that's been my experience, right? In fact, I was just reading something today. I've done a lot with Genesis, so I'm on the men's auxiliary heroes there. I recently become a big brother, so I've had my chance to just
Cool.
sort of see, for various reasons. I was heavily involved with MS for a long time because my mom had
Mhm.
that and did the bike ride 5 times, and so I found in this sort of adult time post really being thrown into kids, early kid age, I've made some great relationships because there's like-minded people doing things that are important. So okay, so before we talk anything about your career, whenever I've decided there's going to be a high school friend or somebody I've known from the past, at least of that era, I've recently found those movies to be very exciting again. Those movies that we grew up with. Particularly, I was a big Ferris Bueller guy, and in my book, you'll read about my fascination with Ferris Bueller that's coming out in 6 or 7 weeks. But The Breakfast Club has been on my mind lately. So, first of all, did you like The Breakfast Club?
Yes. I mean, who doesn't like The Breakfast Club? We
Right.
also, it was so, that movie was so important to us at that age because there had never been anything like it before. And it was like, it saw us, it spoke to us. I mean, it was so revolutionary at the time. And it still holds up, by the way, because I watched it recently with my kids and it still holds
Amazing.
up. That is a
I
great
know.
movie.
I was just telling one of our classmates somebody last week about it. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm getting nostalgic of this time, but so which of the characters either did you identify with? I mean, there's only 5 archetypes in that show, or or the person in charge of detention, him, but uh, or
That
either
was not
either
mine.
which did you identify with, or which did you like did not like because of what you didn't have going on, or just which character was most compelling to you?
You know, I feel like the Judd Nelson character was the most compelling because it was the one who was going against the grain so much. I didn't identify honestly with any of them.
Yeah,
They none of them felt like they really spoke to me personally. But it was so interesting. I don't know the whole story about how they all just came together and had so much in common. I think that that was the part that spoke to me the most. Is that on the face of it in the beginning they're all kind of like irritated with each other and they don't like each other and they're trying to stake out their ground and who am I and what's this experience going to be like. But the piece that brought them together is that they're all in the same boat. And
yeah,
that was my biggest takeaway from it more than necessarily identifying with one of the characters. Were you one of the
yeah.
characters? Did you
I,
identify
I
with one of the characters?
Well, it's funny. Like, I liked his character. I think a lot of people did, and I think that the coming of age me liked Molly Ringwald's character. I mean, she
Yeah.
was, but
So
as I think about it now, I was more like Anthony Michael Hall. Like, I was more like, not that I was nerdy like that, but like he just needed to
no.
figure out how to stay alive. He said he had to
Yeah.
figure out how to stay alive, and at the end, they found him very endearing. Like, he was this, so like I think as I've rewatched it, as you say, it holds up. I like his character and the things he
Yeah.
says and how much shit he takes, right, in it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just fun with our class, of that time. I agree that it still holds up. So many John Hughes movies, so much of the movies of that era. My kids have seen them all. I mean, it's like mandatory
Hmm.
for them to know them over time. And it's funny, they're appreciating them now, which is why I know they hold up, because the story. Some of those I hope they don't touch, but like that's one I bet you someday soon there's a remake. Somebody in Hollywood's doing it. I'm sure, figuring out how
Oh
to do
yeah,
this.
for
I hope they
sure.
don't. I hope they don't, but they
But you
probably
know what's
will.
so funny? I go back and watch some of those movies now, and there are lots of things that I don't remember about them, but I'll watch them through the lens of today and the things that we filter for
Yeah,
today. And I'll go, oh my gosh, that was in a movie? So
I know. I
there
know.
are some
Well,
things that are a little questionable, but the sentiment of that age
well,
definitely.
the MPAA didn't really have. We only had PG. We didn't even have PG-13 when you and I were
Right.
13, right? So you were going, and I remember showing my kids. My daughters both went to they're big. We were big summer campers in my family. Myself, my wife, all of us. And so, of course, Meatballs is a great summer camp movie. I mean, there's others, but it is not fit. I mean, it is like straight rated R. I
Right.
mean, but it wasn't then, and it seemed so.
I
That's
forgot about
another
that.
reason, right? Funny. Well, you talk. I knew that you had gotten into this career path and it was a family business, but was this always wealth management, investment management? Was that always what you wanted to do?
It was not always what I wanted to do, but it was one of the things that I realized that I was probably going to do from a young age. So my dad started the firm when I was about 12, and he'd gone from working at a big corporation and not really having any control over his life, and just had to do what other people told him to do all the time. And then he became a financial advisor, and he was working harder than he had ever worked, but he had total ownership of his life. And I thought that sounds cool. So I was more interested in being able to run a practice or run a firm so much more than just like the work itself, because I didn't understand the work when I was younger. And then I had been straight A student, had done everything that I was supposed to do, checked all the boxes, came to the end of my college career, and I was like, I don't know if I can just go right into the family business, because I just thought at some point I was going to have a nervous breakdown when I was about my age now if I
Right.
didn't go do something a little wacky. And so I moved to Los Angeles with another friend of ours from high school, as you know, and we lived out there for I lived out there for 4 years, worked in the music industry, totally loved it, thought that it was amazing. And then I just realized that they did not have the business sense that I grew up with. And I had to get back home to Texas. I loved Los Angeles, loved living in California, and then I was done. And so it was time to move back to Texas. Came right back into the family firm. I'd worked there kind of in summers and so on. So I knew what I was getting myself into at that point. It was a huge transition, though, to go from music industry world to your dad's financial advisory firm was a really big transition.
And I remember that is one of the reasons. I remember having a conversation. We talked for a while one time somewhere, and you were talking less about the practice, although I knew what your plans were. And most of the things you talked about in that day, I think you were just at the infancy. You talked because I
Hmm.
think your dad was still there, and you talked about wanting to run the business, how you were going to
Hmm.
create process, how you were going to build the structure. And I think at this point, probably, it's hard, right? Because you want to make it your own, but it was your dad's vision and you don't want to be held
Yes.
necessarily to that. So talk about that a little bit. Like, how has that been for you?
Well, so I worked with my dad, my brother, and my sister. So that went real. I mean, I love my family, and so that went really well for a long time. But then all of us were getting older, and we were all kind of developing our own version of what we wanted this firm to look like. And so then my dad passed away in 2017. And Scott, I don't know if you remember the words of wisdom that you gave me around what it's like to have a parent pass away. Do you remember this?
No, but I mean, I would love to hear.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you really briefly. I don't mean to go on too much of a
No, I
tangent, but
love it.
you and I had breakfast one time, and I was going through. My dad had cancer, and he had about a 6 month battle with cancer, and so we went from having this dad who was full of life and still running the firm, and was very much enjoying the heyday of his life, with kids and grandkids, and playing golf, and still working and everything and just having the time of his life. And then all of a sudden he was diagnosed, and all of a sudden he was very sick, and then all of a sudden we knew that it was the end. So it was
Yeah.
a huge transition for us that we were not at all expecting. And he'd been really, really healthy, and so just a huge shocker to us. And so you and I were at breakfast one time, and it was getting closer to the time that he was going to pass away. And I said, I'm an information person, so I do better when I kind of know what things are going to look like. And I said, I just don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know what this can all be about. And you said, you just have to remember that the hearing is the last thing that goes. And so they can hear you all the way up until the very end. And you just, when the time is right, you need to hold his hand and you need to tell him everything that you have to tell him. And I had been very close to my dad my entire life. So
I knew
he and I
that.
had already kind of bared our souls to each other. So there weren't last minute things that I needed to tell him, but it was so meaningful to have that understanding. And we just talked to him all the way up until the very end. And it was because you had coached me through that, because you had been through similar kind of a
Yeah,
situation.
with
And
both my parents.
yeah. And so you had already been through it, and you said, this is very painful to go through, but I'm glad to be sharing this with you because at least my pain can teach you something. And it was just so helpful to have somebody who had been through it, because at that point, not many people that
Right.
I knew had lost parents.
And now we're
Um,
in the throes of it, right around us. I mean, I feel I've been to a funeral every week for the last 5 weeks. A
wow.
couple people our age, which is, it hits me differently as a result of my life and the transplant, right? But it is good advice. A lot of people, hospice and things like that, people don't understand it until you're in it,
Right.
and there's no handbook for any of it, right? Because everybody's relationships are different. Sometimes they're estranged. But I knew you had admired your dad, and boy, would your dad! I knew he was proud of you. I didn't know your dad. I mean, I think maybe I met him once or twice, but
Hmm.
I remember thinking when I saw you in that period just how much I admired you. Like you were just someone that I was like, wow. And I liked you. We were friends in high school. You were smart. You were
Hmm.
doing, but it was really wonderful to see a woman and so many of our classmates. As I could do a podcast with just our class and it would be going for years because
Right.
such exceptional people. But you were just hitting that groove, and I knew that was going to be a tough loss for you because I know there was a lot in the business. So, really, I'm glad I gave you that advice, and I think it still holds true for anybody that is battling that.
For
I
sure,
have,
for sure. And so, but you were asking the question about like,
yeah,
what was it like and everything. So my dad's death was very, very difficult to go through, as you can imagine. But then the siblings all decided for lots of good reasons that we were going to start our own firms instead of staying together as a family firm. So it actually gave me the opportunity to do what I really think that I was probably born for, which is to run this company and to really say, what do I want to create in the world that I think is good for people? And so we've been shaping it ever since then. So I went out on my own in 2018,
Yeah.
officially rebranded in 2021, but we really are, we now focus really on the financial planning side more than on the investment side. So we manage a little under $500 million at this point, but we really focus on the financial planning piece, which is how does your money actually fit into your life. So that part is very meaningful to me, and I felt there wasn't a when my dad passed away. I've been doing it for so long at that point
Right.
that it wasn't. I wasn't worried. Can I run this? How's this going to be? What are my clients going to think? None of that was a worry to me. It was almost like unleashing. Okay, now this is the next version of how I want to do this.
And I think that's I mean I think that says a lot about you. And look, I even think what I thought about have I've wanted to have a somebody that is in your professional area of expertise. And I thought specifically about you because I think it has changed. One of the things that has changed is I think it was a male dominated field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious of as a woman in it, I see quite a number of females because number one, we have a lot more females in the workforce earning, and
Mm-hmm.
in this archetype of the mom that we grew up that may have stayed at home, that is just not the case anymore. So there's decisions are made together as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious of your experience as a woman in the space. How has that been for you, and you know your take on it?
So you say it was a male dominated industry. It is a male dominated industry.
Yeah, I
So
know, but it's getting
it,
better, right? There's more. You're
well,
seeing more women.
I mean, there's still 75% of financial advisors, it's about the number, are male. Almost all of them are white. And so it is still a very, it still is very dominated by that sector. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, I don't want to act like that has been a bad thing in our industry. It's just that there are not as many women, and more women, to your point, are making money decisions, are inheriting money, are in control of money, are running businesses than selling businesses. So
Yep.
the amount of wealth that is transitioning into the hands of women right now is absolutely extraordinary, and we're seeing it in our clients. If you look at our top client base, over half of them are female. So, and
Wow.
that's not because we cater to that. It's just because they have money and are coming to us. So the transition is happening, and there are not as many female advisors, especially there are very few female founded, female led wealth management firms. And it does make a difference in the way that we think about things and the way that we prioritize what our clients want to do and the way that we talk to our clients. There is a difference in the sensibility that I bring versus kind of a very traditional wealth management firm. And so that has been really fun to put our footprint out there about that, because it is what people want these days. They don't want to just, I mean, anybody can invest money at these,
Yeah.
that's not the hard part. The hard part is, what is this money going to do in my life, not like in the standard textbook life, but what is this money going to do in my life? And that's what we love. So that really is the kind of the special sauce of what we do now.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, working in commercial insurance now, it's a new career for me, but building on my relationship building skills, it was a heavily relationship based business and pretty highly transactional if I'm honest. But
Mhm.
for people, right, they spend some of the money they spend money on insurance to insure the things that they have. For businesses, they buy commercial insurance and then they deploy and implement um, uh, you know employee benefit programs, right? Even that
Mhm.
has changed. So for us to think it wouldn't change, or for you to say like, but I don't know if the world had enough of a voice like you. And I knew you built like a proprietary methodology. Do you still use that?
Yes.
What is it?
Yes. So we use there's a software platform that we use called eMoney. So it's very commonly used across our industry. That's not the part that's proprietary. It's the process that we use. So we call it the DBT 360. So DBT are my initials. The idea is that we go into our clients' lives and stand right in the middle of of their lives with them, and we look out on all sides to see what's working for them, what's not working for them, what resources do they have, what risks do they have that they may not know about. Some people have great things like, I've got, very wealthy parents that have a mountain house that we can go to so we don't have to pay for our own vacations. And some people have, gosh, my sister or brother asks for money all the time and I have to think about that. Or my parents are running out
Right.
of money and I have to think about that. So everybody's life is totally different. And so we have a 3-step process that we go through, where we go through basic kind of data discovery. And then we go through a meeting that is my favorite meeting, which we call more questions than answers. And in that meeting, we really get into the nitty gritty of what are you using this money for and what decisions can we help you make so that you're more confident about the money decisions that you're making now and in the future. So our whole thing, performance matters, all that kind of stuff. So we do measure ourselves against performance with our investments and so on. But our real measure is, do our clients feel more confident about their money decisions because they work with us than before they came? And
Yeah,
we
that's
feel like
great.
that well, and we feel like that confidence then is that goes out in the rest of their lives. If they can be confident about their money, they're probably a more confident parent. They're probably a more confident worker. They're probably they could maybe be a little more generous if they wanted to, with causes that matter to them. So we feel like confidence is the best thing that we can give to our clients. And it's all about just unpeeling all of those decisions about your money, how you're spending it, why you're spending it, and then how you could change that if you should keep it the same. So yeah, that's our biggest focus. But that's why it's fun to do our work. Because if we can help other people be confident about that and then they take that out into their lives, like that's pretty fulfilling work.
For more information on BFS Advisory Group or to get in touch with Debra Tagg, go to bfsadvisorygroup.com. I think you've run a business. You've rebranded a business. Do you have a golden rule for your business? Like something that is just like this is foundational to everything else we do.
It's just transparency. I mean, it's
I'm
just,
the
I think one of the things that people don't like about our industry, because a lot of people really don't like our industry. I mean, there are many people who are like, oh, I have to go talk to a financial advisor, wealth manager
right.
person. But they don't understand the expenses. They don't understand what people are talking about. People are using jargon. So it's like help people to understand what you are telling them and what you are providing to them. And then not only that, but if something doesn't work out the right way, just be honest about it. Or even just
Yep.
the market is down. That is definitely going to happen during my relationship with my clients. So just be honest about the market being down. Don't be like,
It's
oh,
it's
it's no big deal.
crazy. It's crazy because that's my biggest takeaway in the insurance business. The guys that have been doing this that are maybe contemporaries by age, they were using I don't use acronyms when I talk to people. First of all,
Mhm.
you can use your phone and look it
Right.
up and you can ask an AI agent, but talk to people like people and use language they understand.
Yes.
They thought that that created more value for them because you were keeping, and it's quite the opposite. If you, I prefer to educate people, allow them to make decisions rather than keep them in the dark or use words or language or make them feel uncomfortable. And that's all just about transparency. So I love that you said that. That is like that hits home for me.
Hmm.
I think you know that I started a business, and so it was really it'll be one of the things that I hope one day if I'm remembered that I was passionate about, which is financial literacy.
Hmm.
We grew up in the same school system. I
Hmm.
don't know that our schools did a very good job of teaching financial literacy, although we had Enterprise City. And by the way, I went back there as an adult, and I still think it was one of my favorite things I did as an adult parent of my kids.
Hmm.
Thoughts on financial literacy for our youngest generation. I said at the introduction that my daughter, who is really mastered the art of income, she loves earning. She feels very independent. I'm so proud of that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's great.
just thoughts about that because I give advice to people and about that, but then I want to tell you what I tell them and get your thoughts. So, what are your thoughts in general about financial literacy in the country and in your
Well,
view?
I mean, it's terrible. So, but going back to what you were talking about, so yes, we had Enterprise City. We also had home ec.
Yeah,
So there was a place for kids to learn even just the basic things. So if your parents didn't know, you could still find out a little something.
right.
And what happened was, and this is legitimate, this is documented, that when STEM education came in, something had to come out. And so home ec was one of the things that
Yeah,
left.
yep,
And so financial literacy was barely taught when it was home ec. They like were teaching us how to write checks. But
yeah,
now, but now that's not even anywhere. So you kind of wonder, well, there's all this information. There's never been so much information about finance available for free before on the internet. And people
right.
are more confused than ever. And it's because the lessons are not being handed down from generation to generation, other than in
No,
houses like yours and obviously houses like mine. And also I think a lot of parents didn't know. They still don't feel like they have a grasp on it. And so they don't even know what lessons to pass on. But kids are definitely not learning this stuff. They're not
no.
learning it at the rate that they should be.
Well, I will tell you that you probably didn't know this about me. I thought that the Bennetts, that means my parents, were
Mhm.
wealthy people. I thought we had money from everywhere because my dad had a lot of credit cards. That's my joke. We did not. There might have been some over leveraging, even though there was like a family business. My
Yeah.
dad did not. I mean, to his credit, because he did not grow up with much, and so I think he wanted to provide everything, and he had a good job. But when he had to starting to earn, he just outpaced his earning, and so maybe
Mhm.
that's where that comes from. I think it really is. And what I tell people, and I want to hear your take for, because I know people that have kids will appreciate this, whether they're younger or older. When my girls were little, and we put three envelopes up on their closet doors:
Mhm.
spend, save, and give. Right, like
Mhm.
we call it tzedakah because I'm Jewish, but and we would give them money. And part of whether it wasn't chores. I mean, that chores were a requirement of the house. Like you just doing those because you're part of the
Yeah,
unit.
yes.
I'm not
Yes.
paying you to be part of the unit. You're part of the team. You're part of the
That's
pack.
right.
But but uh, but I wanted them to learn how to appropriate money and
Mhm.
income, and then income. I was seeding income, and eventually they started to earn income. And I've told people that advice: start early so that they can understand that concept. So, what are your tips and tricks for somebody who might be thinking about that? Any
So
thoughts?
we did a very similar thing when the kids were little, and this one people always go, "You did what?" I had the kids put away money for taxes
Good
because
idea. That's
I want
smart.
I wanted them to understand at a young age that just because you get five $1 bills does not mean that you get to go spend five $1 bills,
Yeah.
even if it's on something sweet and nice. So it was a similar kind of a thing. They had to put money in savings that they could use for themselves for whatever they wanted to in the future. They had to put money away for taxes. They had to put money away for college. And it was really funny. At one point, I remember Harper looking at me and she had like $20 and she was so excited about her $20 that she'd accumulated for college. And she goes, "Is this enough?" And I was like, "Not quite, honey. You are on a roll. You
Right.
are on a roll."
Right.
And then we had a similar thing that they had an envelope that they could use that where they had to just give the money away for something. So they could buy something for a friend, they could buy it for a family member, they
Yeah.
could buy it for the dogs, or just like to a nonprofit or something. And it was so cute because Liam used to call it, he would call it something for something else.
Right.
So
Right.
it was
Something.
a
Right.
something for something else envelope. So you always knew that you had to hold money aside for something else that was going to come up or somebody else was going to need the benefit of your money, your earned money.
Well, I can tell you now. I mean, I have a daughter that works for J.P. Morgan. Okay,
Oh,
she
that's
works
awesome.
right, and my younger daughter, while she's taking loans, she fully understood that was part of the thing. Is I wanted her to have some skin in the game, and
Hmm.
listen, I think that philosophy worked. But I thought about that because we got piggy banks for them. Like that was a gift that people gave, and I thought, you don't really see the money. It goes in this bank. You don't really, and now, as it turns out, you don't really see the money anymore because they don't
Right,
use cash, right? So
right.
I was trying to create a relationship with the tangibility of it, right? And the
Hmm.
feeling of currency. And of course, now we're living in like blockchain and whatever. So that was my thinking. But did you have a good piggy bank when you were
So
a
I
kid?
had a piggy bank. I had a rocking piggy bank when I was little. Yeah, and then my parents, even before my dad started the firm, they instilled in us the idea of saving. And
Yeah.
I loved having babysitting money. I loved having the independence to spend money how I
Yeah.
wanted to. It was just great. I feel so fortunate to have grown up in a family where they taught us the skills of saving money and being conscious and intentional about your money, and knowing that my hard work is going to create something that I want in my life. I feel so grateful for that, and I just feel like a lot of families don't understand that how useful that is. If you haven't grown up with it, you don't understand the benefit of it in your own life.
Yeah, that same for me. Like having two daughters, the thing for me was to create confidence and independence, and like kind of how you talked about with your clients, right? Like if they feel more confident, my feeling was that everything builds off of that, and so
Mhm.
I wanted them to be able to take care of themselves. And 1,171 days ago, their life might have been different. I mean, their
Mhm.
mom was a model for that also, but I wanted them to know that they could be educated enough that they could go out, believe in themselves, and I mean, income is a big part of that, and obviously all those
Mhm.
practices, saving, giving. So I'm sure your clients are seeing the benefit. Okay, you talked about being a mom. What's been the hardest mom moment? It sounds like you might have it coming up, but to date, like what's been the hardest part about being a mom?
Um, I think that I have chosen to be a working mom, and I've chosen to be a working mom who owns a company, and I've chosen to be a working mom who owns a company that serves people. So because of that, there are going to be time demands, and you can't always be 100%. You know, if I could split myself in two and be in two places, that would be amazing. So I think I think that that's the hardest part. Is I feel like when you're a working mom, there's always a pull of like, oh, I could be doing this over here, I could be doing this over here, and did I miss anything? I have the luxury of running my own schedule, so I did get to go to almost everything that I ever wanted to. But you always just feel like, you know, the stay at home moms can just dedicate all their time and energy to the kids, and you just can't when you're a working mom. So I think I don't have any regrets about anything like that, but I think it's just kind of a constant, it's just like an ongoing layer of complexity that you're constantly thinking about.
Well, maybe you will be able to tell this to some of your working mom clients and yourself. I would have told you, like I told you about your dad, I learned that there's no such thing as balance. That's a farce. It's
Yes.
work life priorities, right? It's not that right now
Mhm.
this is a priority. Um, but you know that may not be, and it's and your kids are paying attention, and
Mhm.
prioritization is part of that. And to understand that work is a priority is not a bad thing. They're paying attention, and so they will get a lot from that. And I know that because my girls saw their mom working and understood, and we
Mhm.
had the same kind of thing. So you can do it all. And I think we talked about with your the it's in a male dominated space that you've been in, and in a world that is slightly shifting, not still enough for women, but definitely better. That's part of the deal. You know, the thing is, we live. I don't you agree that we have more? I think very different than our parents. We had two, a lot of cases, two income earners. Like we have partners in
Mhm.
our marriages. Two,
Mhm.
so we just have to be better at blocking and tackling together.
Yes. Yeah, and I will say what is cool about being in a male dominated industry is that if you're pretty good at what you do stand out automatically because you're a female. And same
Yeah.
thing is in the reverse, female dominated industries. If a male's really good at whatever that is, he's going to stand out as well. So that has been an interesting thing, I think, to teach my kids as well, is that it's not it doesn't have to be a negative. Being in a male dominated industry is not a negative. It's actually a positive if you choose for it to be. And so it doesn't have to be like, oh, it's so hard to be in an industry
Right.
that has, you know, it's like, well, no, I'm going to stake my claim here, and I'm going to be something that is different on purpose. And that's
Well,
actually going to be very productive and helpful.
and no shot at the moms that don't work, but I imagine when you walk into a PTA meeting or a school meeting of their years, you're like, this thing is so inefficient. You want to like take it over, right? Like this is their thing, and you're like, I've got this. We can be out of here because you run a business. So that applies, and maybe you win there, right? So that's for sure the case.
So when Harper was very small, I was asked to, I mean, she must have been in like pre-K or kindergarten or something. And someone called me and they said, would you want to chair? And I'm like, of course, you know, whatever it is, I'll chair whatever it
Right.
is. And they said, the photography committee for the Valentine's Day social. And I was like, no. There is somebody else who can do that really, really well, and I'll do something else for you. But no, you probably don't want me doing that because I will over engineer that for you.
Yeah. Well, obviously, a few things I like to ask, especially people I've known a long time. These are just a little rapid fire because I just think it's fun. Mexican or barbecue, or neither?
Mexican. No, Mexican. I don't eat enough fun stuff to make barbecue my thing. Like I
Yeah,
don't
you and
eat
I are the
the
same.
yeah.
Um, I asked Sean, who was our last guest, and since we all grew
Mhm.
up, what was your favorite school lunch? Did you bring your lunch every day?
I brought my lunch because it was cute and healthier. Like I was not going to delight in chicken fried chicken or the Frito pie, but
What was on your lunchbox?
what was that? So my mom always put it in a little paper sack, and she would draw a little. She would write "Love you, mom,"
You
and then
had
she would.
notes. You had notes,
Oh,
right?
I had notes. I had daily notes from my mom.
For loyal fans of Scott Bennett, you're going to get a little funny here. My mom was not making. I was the third of three kids. If first of all, I was buying, so that's what Sean and I talked about. But on the rare opportunity that I wanted to like fit into a certain crowd, I would make my lunch, which it was like the bag was all crumpled, and I would write my own notes to myself. Like to read what some of those were. Pretty awesome.
That's
And then what's your?
amazing.
It sounds like you're going to have a little more time on your hands. So I'm curious, what are you going to be doing with your extra time? Guilty pleasure. Want to know what that is?
Paul and I are going to be doing some just parent traveling together, just the two of us. So that'll be fun. And then the other thing that I just started, and I shouldn't say this out loud because it's going to make me stick to it, but I just started deadlifting.
Ooh,
I'm not kidding. And so I just got a trainer, and
John Helton, our former classmate. I mean, he's moved away now out of Dallas, or I would have connected you. He got into it. Oh my gosh, we'll talk about that later. But wow, well done.
Okay, let me
That's
tell you this.
nobody's going to say that.
John Helton was my prom date.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh-huh.
well, maybe maybe we can reconnect you. That's funny. Well, that is a hobby. I will. We will talk about that. I will schedule a breakfast to hear about this.
Excellent.
Well, I just have to say, like, I have admired you. I've loved when we have seen each other. Maybe this was an excuse, as I said to Sean. I can't find you guys to give me 30 minutes, so I have to weasel you onto this podcast to actually
I'll see you
spend
anytime,
time.
Scott.
But it's a reminder, and I will now. That I know how to do it. I just have to say, like I said to you earlier, I'm just very impressed by the way that you have taken so many gifts and skills that you always had, that straight A student in you, the way that you have. The thing I most appreciate is what you said about your practice, which is how you instill confidence for your clients. And listen, for those people that are looking for somebody or looking for a change, I hope that that resonates with them. How, just as we close, how can they get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to find you?
The easiest way is really just to go to our website, which is bfsadvisorygroup.com. And there's a place there where they can just put in their information, and we're very quick to respond to that.
Well, I know that when people ask me, and they often do, I'm a referrer, that I will for sure mention your name. I have done it a few times in the past, and I am not surprised by anything that you told me. But what a fun opportunity to catch up and share some of your just
Absolutely.
incredible wisdom about all things, your dedication to civics and the bigger, broader Dallas community, and to your clients. So thanks for joining, Debra.
Well, thanks for having me, Scotty.